policy plan of yours in particular? Why do you see the need here to abolish the filibuster in the U.S. Senate?
Well, look, we need big, bold action from the Senate in our nation, and that requires action by the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell has described himself as the Grim Reaper, using that blade to essentially cut off any progress in the U.S. Senate. And that blade is the filibuster. It prevents action by the Senate. It essentially gives 50% more power in the Senate to those who want to lock in the status quo, to lock in the control of our country by the fossil fuel industry, to prevent action against the climate crisis that we're now seeing in real time in New Orleans and the floods in the Midwest and the fires in Paradise, California. This nation needs action. The filibuster prevents it. It is anti-democratic. It is time for action in this country. That means ending the filibuster. And I'm frankly surprised that my senatorial opponents still want to cling to this ancient senatorial rule rather than want to save the planet and climate change. I'm all about doing that.
I know my colleagues want to get in with some questions of their own, but let me ask you one more here quickly, if I could. You have been pushing for a climate-focused debate here leading up to the election in 2020. Give us an update on the progress there, the conversations that you've been having. What's your sense of the likelihood that we see a forum like that?
A strong possibility that there's been over 200,000 people sign a petition urging the party to move forward. There are 9 states that are already aligned. They will bring a resolution in late August to the National Party in hopes that the party can be enlightened and actually have a debate. Look, we need to know what people's real plans are. I believe we need a plan that will in fact be based on science, and I have proposed a plan to do that. Others have said, no, we can't do that. They want to seek some middle ground. The fact of the matter is there's no middle ground. You can't negotiate with science. We have to have a timeline of progress to build a clean energy economy. And we need a debate so that the country and the party can know where people stand on this. And we certainly don't want to have people blacklisted. The party has essentially said that if we do have a debate outside the realm of the party, they'll blacklist those candidates. So look, this is a threat to literally civilization as we have come to know it. And we need to get right down to it and see who's got the chops to get this done. And frankly, I think I've got a plan that will look really good. And I'm the one that says this has to be the top priority of the United States.
Governor, Joel Payne here to my left knows a bit about the filibuster rule we were talking about a moment ago. He was a Senate aide for a long time. Joel, I know you have a question for the governor.
And Governor, we can have an offline about the Senate filibuster rule. Probably the youngest person that still clings to it. But a question for you just related to your position in the field. Obviously, you've bet a lot around the issue of climate change. And there's a new entrant into the field within the last week, Tom Steyer, the California businessman, who has spent a lot of his effort and his capital on promoting that issue. Just curious as to your thoughts on having another climate heavy, so to speak, in the race and how that might impact you.
Well, I welcome any voice to this to talk about our ability to save humanity, so I welcome anybody to the race. But I also think it's important to realize that this is not the only thing I bring to the table. I've had a 6-year run as governor that has helped produce the #1 economy in the United States. And we've succeeded on that, and I talked at the progressive meeting yesterday at Netroots about the progressive things we've done. I've achieved the largest teacher pay increase in the United States. I've signed a bill for the very first public health option in the United States. We've got a great gender pay equity and 100% clean electrical bill. And I signed the first net neutrality bill in the United States. These are progressive measures that I bring to the table that I really believe are a template for defeating Donald Trump. And I'll tell you why. His sort of trickle-down theory, we can blow up with the example of Washington State, what I've been able to achieve with my colleagues in Washington. That is a great way to deflate his balloon and make sure he's a blip in history, and I'm ready to make sure that happens.
Francesca Chambers, who's to my right, was at that Netroots conference yesterday. She has a question for you as well, Governor.
Well, I did want to follow up on something that you said, and then I have a slightly more serious question. But you had said that you wanted to make Megan Rapinoe your Secretary of State. You gave it in a sort of deadpan way, so now many people are wondering whether or not you were serious about that.
Well, not entirely. But I do think 2 things. Number one, I know she'd do better than the Trump administration. But number 2, the reason I mentioned Megan, she is now playing for our team in Seattle, and so we're very proud of Washingtonians of her. But if you listen to her speech during the ticker tape parade, you see it as a perfect antithesis to the fear-based, anxiety-based divisiveness and hate-filled rhetoric of Donald Trump. And I was very inspired by her, and I think millions of Americans were. And I thought her speech encapsulated what our approach needs to be in our foreign policy, which is to work with people rather than to tear up our alliances, to have a message of hope rather than anger and fear. And so I think that her message did resonate with Americans and captured the moment, which we need a foreign policy that is based on building the power of alliances so we can be more effective in foreign policy. Certainly that is true in the climate crisis, where we need to lead the world and engage with the world to have some hope of saving our children and grandchildren. So I think her message is perfect. I haven't asked her yet about this, so we'll leave that as more of a tongue-in-cheek
See if
thing
she
at the
can be
moment.
confirmed as well. Governor, let me ask you lastly here, just about how you plan to break out here in these coming months. I'm sure you've given a lot of thought to that, and I'm also curious what you thought as you read the statement that Eric Swalwell, your now former competitor in this race, put out, that he was going to call it quits. He was going to focus on running for re-election for his House seat. What's your thinking now about the way forward, your calculus looking ahead here to 2020?
Well, look, we're still an underdog in this race. I've been an underdog many times when I beat Republicans, and I am where Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter were at this point, which is in the very low single digits. But I think what we're finding is the message of having a big, bold, ambitious plan to defeat climate change is resonating. We have had an uptick of support. We've got a wide variety. We had 3 times the number of donors in the second quarter in the first. So that is resonating, and certainly did at Netroots Nation yesterday. But I also now am sort of what you call in second gear of letting people know about the progressive policies that we have embraced to such great success in Washington. And I do believe the Washington way is a template not only for the United States for economic growth, but a perfect way to defeat Donald Trump. Because we've demonstrated that when you do raise your minimum wage to the highest level in the country, when you do have the most robust financial plan for college students, it's called a game changer by the New York Times. When you do these things, you actually result in the best economy in the United States. That is a perfect way to beat Donald Trump. So I think the Washington way is a good template for success, and that's starting to kick in right now.
Jay Inslee, whose office is in Seattle, Washington. He joined us from the other Washington place, not unfamiliar to him. He was a legislator for some time as well. Joining us on this Sunday morning. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.